They never expected us to survive the collapse. 300 years ago, Earth was declared uninhabitable. The Galactic Concord, smug and confident in their own superiority, marked our system with a dead world classification. No contact, no scanning, no interest. But Earth didn't die. We adapted. We evolved. We went dark. In silence, in the shadows of the void, humanity built something monstrous. I was there the day we returned, not as diplomats, not as colonists, as a weapon. I was the combat systems engineer on the Leviathan, Earth's first and only interstellar battleship. Not a cruiser, not a scout, a war machine the size of a small moon, coated in adaptive alloy and designed to bend physics to its knees. We didn't announce our return. We didn't send out a signal. We just appeared. The moment we dropped out of the rift into the heart of the Helion system, every sensor on every ship, planet, moon, and orbital outpost within 50 light-years went dead. It wasn't an EMP. It wasn't interference. It was fear. Whatever technology they had, whatever sensor webs, long-range optics, or sub-quantum comma rays, they were built with the assumption that nothing scarier than a Threxian gunboat existed. They had no answer for us. The bridge was quiet as we floated above the capital world. No alarms, no sirens, just the deep hum of the Leviathan's core, a sound that could split minds if you weren't trained for it. Even our own men had bled from the ears during early testing. Commander Ryland stood at the viewport, arms crossed, staring down at a planet that once mocked us. He didn't speak for a full minute. Then he turned and gave me the order that would change history. Activate the beacon. My hands hesitated at the console. That wasn't just a signal flare. The beacon was designed to be unmistakable. An ancient Terran war cry encoded in gravitational pulses and frequency shifts that no species could ignore. A message carved in pain. I flipped the switch. Every major outpost in the Helion system lit up with emergency warnings. Ships turned blind. Gravity fluxed unnaturally. Civilian crafts spun out. The sky itself, blue and calm just minutes ago, cracked into a fractured dome of storms and flickering light. I watched their communications feed. Panic, confusion. Some were crying, some praying. One station commander whispered in trembling Threxian, "Earth, that world is dead. Not anymore. We didn't fire. Not yet. We didn't have to. Our existence was the weapon. Our silence, the invasion." A single Earth warship had turned the heart of the Galactic Concord into a tomb of static. But this was just the beginning. A voice crackled into the bridge, a transmission forced through in analog, a method long abandoned by galactic standards. It wasn't encrypted. It didn't need to be. "This is Director Varick of the Galactic Council. Identify yourselves immediately. You are in violation of multiple Concord protocols. If you do not withdraw, we will respond with force." I couldn't help but laugh. They still thought they were in charge. They still thought we gave a damn about their protocols. Commander Rylands gave me a nod. "Patch me in," he said. I opened the channel. He leaned into the mic and said just 6 words, calm, slow, and deliberate. "This is Earth. We remember everything." Then we cut the line. The Helion system would never be the same. They didn't respond right away. Silence blanketed the system like a coffin lid. No communications, no movement. Even the orbital patrols, usually brimming with self-important galactic enforcers, drifted in place like ghosts. Fear had teeth now, and its name was Leviathan. Commander Rylands remained stone still on the command deck. His eyes never left the planet below, as if he were staring at something only he could see. I'd served under him for years and had never seen him this quiet. And that was saying something. Then finally, movement. Not from the planet, but from orbit. A destroyer-class cruiser spun up its engines and started a slow trajectory toward us. It was old tech, Threxian built, Standard armament, heat-sink cannons, and localized warp flares. Pretty on paper, deadly to most species. But not to us. Visual lock, I said, already tracking its arc on the display. Looks like they think we'll flinch first. Rylance didn't even blink. Let them come. The ship's name blinked on screen. Vortan's Mercy. Funny name for what was coming. Their captain tried once more. Audio burst through the static, cracking with desperation and protocol. Unknown vessel, you are in direct violation of Concord security treaties. Identify your origin or prepare to be boarded. Ryland stepped forward, slow and deliberate. His voice cut through the comms like a razor. Your treaties mean nothing to us. Your borders are lies, and your weapons, he turned to me, are a joke. I gave the nod. Targeting array locked. Fire warning shot, he said. I grinned. How close? Close enough to make the pilot piss himself. The Leviathan didn't have guns. It had atmospheric displacement cannons, designed not to explode, but to erase. We fired one, just a single pulse, past the Vortan's Mercy. The ripple wasn't even visible to the naked eye. But their sensors saw it. It passed 30 meters from their hull and stripped every inch of shielding in its wake. No impact, no damage, just a message. We could destroy you without even touching you. Seconds later, their engines shut down, their weapons powered off, and their ship turned, slow, surrendering, and began drifting back toward orbit like a wounded animal retreating from the predator it finally recognized. On the bridge, no one said a word. We didn't cheer. We didn't gloat. Because we weren't here for glory. We were here for justice. Begin countdown, Rylance ordered. 10 hours, then we descend. My stomach clenched. That part still felt insane, even to me. We weren't just broadcasting fear. We were going down there, to the surface of Helion Prime, the Concord's throne world, the same world that had issued Earth's death sentence centuries ago. We were going to land right on their council grounds. Sir, I said carefully, we're not exactly being invited to tea. Once we hit atmosphere, they'll throw everything they've got. He looked at me like I was still thinking small. Let them. He turned back to the viewport. They burned our world, killed billions, then rewrote history to make us look like animals. Now, he said, we remind them what real animals look like. I left the bridge to prep the ground assault team. We called them Reclaimers, all volunteers, all Terrans, men who had lost family to the old war, men raised on radiation farms and ruined cities, taught from birth that Earth was betrayed, not beaten. Most of them didn't speak much. They didn't have to. Their bodies were warforged, cybernetic implants, subdermal armor, neural reflex loops, half human, half vengeance. And they were ready. I walked past them as they sat in silence, cleaning their weapons or staring at the hull, waiting for the moment the sky turned red. They didn't look at me. They didn't need orders. They were waiting for revenge. Just before I reached the lower armory, a voice called out, rough, scarred by radiation exposure. You think they'll run? I turned to face him. Captain Dren, old guard. He'd survived the Europa riots, the Martian famine, and the orbital purge of Ceres. His body was more machine than flesh now, but his eyes, those were still human, still burning. No, I said, they won't run. They'll beg? Maybe. He chuckled. Good. Then he stood, grabbed his rifle, an ugly, heavy thing that pulsed with kinetic heat, and muttered, I hate clean kills. So did I. 10 hours. Then fire. Earth didn't come to ask. Earth came to collect. 10 hours disappeared faster than I thought they would. There's something about the quiet before a battle that messes with your head. Your heart wants it over with. Your gut wants to crawl out of your spine. But your hands just keep checking your gear like maybe one more click of a mag will make you immortal. We stood in the Leviathan's drop bay, 50 reclaimers, steel-eyed and silent, waiting for the green light. Outside, Hylian Prime looked calm, almost beautiful. Blue oceans, towering spires, arc fields sparkling like stars frozen in daylight. It was a lie. All of it. Every inch of that planet was built on stolen blood. The dropships were already humming, preheated, armed. Not sleek vessels. These were old Terran descent rigs, clunky, scarred, and mean. Designed to punch through orbital flak like a hammer through a glass dome. Commander Rylance arrived last. No fanfare, just presence. He stepped into the bay, looked us all over, and spoke 5 words. They're going to remember today. The launch siren screamed, the floor cracked open, and the first ship dropped. One after another, our descent rigs hurled toward Hylian Prime like flaming fists. I was in the third. The ride down wasn't smooth. Anti-air fire was already cooking the atmosphere. Static roared in my helmet. The sky outside turned orange, then black, then seared white with plasma arcs. "Brace!" our pilot screamed. I didn't. I'd rather die standing than live curled up like prey. We smashed through their first defense ring. Their weapons, what few could even track us, did nothing. Our armor turned heat to vapor. Our velocity shattered their locks. By the time we hit ground, half their automated platforms were slag. We landed hard. Metal shrieked. Bolts blew. My helmet HUD glitched for 2 seconds before rebooting. Then the hatch blew. And hell began. Helion security forces swarmed the plaza like ants defending a nest. Gold-plated armor, flash guns, sonic shields, all useless. The reclaimers moved through them like a storm of knives. No mercy, no stuns. We weren't here to negotiate. Every shot we took was a message. You made this. I saw one of theirs, a lieutenant maybe, crawling behind a wrecked sky bike, his leg gone and chest heaving. He looked up at me, face full of fear and disbelief. "You're supposed to be extinct." He gasped. I aimed my rifle. "Wrong." Then I pulled the trigger. We pushed through the perimeter, reclaimers flanking left and right. Dren blew out a security gate with a shoulder cannon and shouted, "Keep moving! We don't stop until we see marble floors." And we didn't. By the time we reached the steps of the Concord Council chamber, the plaza was a graveyard. Fire bloomed from towers. Sirens howled in every frequency. Civilian transports scrambled like insects, fleeing into the sky. Rylance arrived moments later in the last wave, calm as ever. I watched him walk up the marble stairs, blood and soot beneath his boots, and stand before the council gates like a man arriving home. "They'll be waiting," I said. He nodded. "Good." We blew the doors open. The Concord Council chamber was a rotunda of gold and glass, 13 seats, 12 occupied. They hadn't run. I'll give them that. Dignity or pride? Didn't matter. The center platform rose slowly. And there he was, Director Varric, the one who'd barked orders at us from orbit. Dressed in royal blue, his face lined with age and fear he was too proud to show. "Earth," he said, the word like something foul in his mouth. "What is this? Revenge? Terrorism? Do you even know why the collapse happened?" Rylance stepped forward. No weapon in hand, just his voice. "You condemned us. You were dangerous. We were survivors. You were uncontrollable." "We were human," Rylance snapped, "and you couldn't stand that we wouldn't kneel." He pulled a small disc from his belt and activated it. A projection lit the room. Footage from pre-collapse archives, classified Concord meetings, fabricated reports, lies stacked on lies, proof they orchestrated Earth's isolation. proof they let billions die. One of the counselors, a lizard-skinned Ilari female, stood up, shaking. That footage is restricted. It's truth, Ryland said. And it's going to every system, every channel, every backwater dust rock in your precious Concord. Varric stepped down, suddenly a man unarmed. If you do this, Earth will never be welcome again. We're not asking, I said. And then the signal went out. Across the galaxy, Earth had returned. And we were no longer silent. The signal went out like a scream across the stars. And the galaxy heard us. It wasn't just the footage. It wasn't just the voices of dead Earth leaders, tortured and erased from the archives. It was what we'd become. The fact that Earth didn't just survive, it outgrew the galaxy's chains. Within 2 hours, subspace feeds exploded. Pirate fleets halted their raids mid-assault. Mining colonies on the outer rim rioted. Border-world soldiers mutinied. In places where the Concord's boot had stomped for generations, people started asking one question. If Earth lied about this, what else did they lie about? Inside the council chamber, chaos started to boil. Some of the councillors, real politicians, cowards in gold-trimmed robes, begged for talks. A few shouted for their guards, only to realize they had none left. The outer chambers were held by reclaimers. No one was getting in. No one was getting out. Director Varric turned to Rylance, voice shaking with fury now. This is insurrection. No, Rylance said flatly. This is overdue. You don't know what you're doing. That made Rylance chuckle, cold and hollow. We know exactly what we're doing. We're correcting history. Then he reached behind him, pulled something from his belt, and slammed it on the council floor. A relic, the old Earth flag, not the one with stars and stripes, or blue circles and alliances. Number this was from the Earth Unity era, black and steel grey. One world, one species, scarred, aggressive, unapologetic, and soaked in blood. He laid it on the floor. From now on, he said, this is the only council that matters. The Ilari councillor hissed. You're mad if you think the other systems will accept Earth rule. They'll burn you out of the stars. They've tried that before, I said. Didn't work then either. She sneered. You're nothing but animals. She didn't get to finish. One of the reclaimers, a massive brute named Kola, walked up and pistol-whipped her across the face. No one stopped him. No one said a word. You could see it in her eyes as she fell. Shock, not at the pain, but at the fact no one came to her defense. The galaxy was shifting. Power was bleeding, and Earth held the blade. But something else was happening too. Back in the Leviathan, our system feed started picking up unusual chatter. Not conquered distress calls. Something darker, heavier, unidentified fleets. Silent movement near the galactic rim. Mass signal scrambling. I patched into the bridge. Commander, I said, we've got an incoming anomaly. Big dot. Rylance turned from the chamber and looked straight at me. Define big. I paused. My HUD was still calculating. Mass equivalent of 3 moons. No registry, no signature, and it's not decelerating. He stared for a second, the first flicker of unease cracking his stone armor. Recall the reclaimers, he said quietly. Now. We moved fast. We always did. But not fast enough. By the time we hit the Leviathan's hangars, the anomaly had reached near orbit. Our scans, what little still worked, started showing something impossible. It wasn't a fleet. It was one ship. Black, silent, unmapped, and old. Older than the Concorde. Older than Earth. As it approached, every ship in the Helion system went offline. Even ours. Leviathan dimmed for 4.2 seconds. Just long enough to remind us we weren't the only nightmare out there. When power came back, we scrambled. Defensive grid went hot, autoguns spun up, emergency shields flared, but none of it mattered. Because whatever that ship was, it didn't see us as a threat. It was watching. I stood in the war room, staring at its outline on the holomap. A black silhouette, unmoving, but not idle. You could feel its presence, like gravity pressing into your bones. "What the hell is that?" Dren muttered, eyes narrowed. "I don't know," I said, but I think it was waiting for us to speak first. Rylance arrived a few minutes later, face unreadable. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there and stared at the silhouette like it was an old ghost he hadn't expected to see again. Then finally, "Prep all external batteries. Focused energy only. Don't fire unless I say." "You think it's conquered tech?" I asked. He shook his head. "Number, they're not this smart, or this patient. So what then?" He took a long breath. "Something we forgot to fear." Outside, the black ship remained still, silent, cold, but its sensors were awake. And for the first time in 300 years, humanity wasn't the scariest thing in the dark. It didn't move, didn't fire, didn't speak. But we felt it. That ship, whatever it was, just hovered at the edge of our system like it had all the time in the universe to watch us unravel. Even Leviathan's main A, I refused to assign it a threat level. It simply tagged it as unknown, origin unmapped, response undefined. And that's what scared us most. It wasn't ignoring us out of arrogance. It didn't care. We prepped anyway. We had to. Every deck of the Leviathan went into silent lockdown. Emergency drills ran. Reclaimer squads doubled patrols. But the ship never flinched, never adjusted course. It hung there like a dead god, untouched by time or law. I stood in the observation dome with Rylance, both of us staring into the void. We didn't talk for a long time. Then he said something that didn't sit right. "They weren't supposed to come back." I turned to him, confused. "They?" He didn't answer at first, just kept looking through the reinforced glass as if the truth might be written on the hull of that thing. "There were rumors," he said slowly. "Old records from before the collapse, buried under Terra Prime, sealed by the High Command. Not conquered lies. Ours." "About what?" He looked at me with the weight of centuries in his eyes. "About the real reason Earth was isolated." And just like that, the floor under my understanding cracked. "What the hell are you talking about, Commander?" He sighed, like it hurt to even say it aloud. "We didn't go silent because of war, or betrayal, or politics. We went silent because something was coming." I stepped back. "That thing?" He nodded. "Or something like it." Then the ship lit up. Not weapons, not engines, just a single beam of deep violet light fired directly into the Leviathan's hull. No damage, no heat. But our systems buckled instantly. Power staggered, lights flickered, gravity twisted. And something worse happened. Voices, hundreds of them, no language, just layered whispers, guttural, hollow, mechanical, and human at the same time. They spoke straight into our minds. Some men dropped to their knees. A few reclaimers screamed, clawing at their helmets. Blood leaked from one man's ears before he passed out. And then it stopped. Just like that. Rylance was still standing, fists clenched so tight his gloves cracked. I looked at him, barely able to keep my balance. "What did they say?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He turned slowly. "I don't know." But I saw the lie in his eyes. He did know. He remembered. The transmission ended, but the damage lingered. Across the ship, the AI stuttered. Memory cores scrambled. Some reclaimers had to be restrained. One man, a veteran of 20 orbital drops, shot himself in the jaw, said he saw his own death playing over and over inside his helmet. And that damn ship still didn't move. I stormed into the war room, fists shaking, rage bubbling beneath the fear. This thing is probing us, testing. We should hit it before it finishes whatever the hell it's doing. Dren agreed. He slammed his cybernetic fist into the table. Just say the word. I'll fire every goddamn pulse cannon we've got. But Rylance didn't answer. He paced instead, silent, calculating. When he finally stopped, he looked at me, and for the first time I saw something in his face I never thought I'd see from him. Regret. I didn't want to wake them, he said. Who? I asked again. The architects? I frowned. That's a myth. Deep void builders, precursors. That's conquered bedtime story bullshit. No, he said, voice sharp. It's not. We found remnants, structures buried in Neptune's orbit, a black sphere on Titan. They weren't natural. They weren't ours. And Earth kept it secret? He nodded. We thought if we stayed quiet, they'd forget us, or think we were dead. He looked back out the viewport toward that silent, watching ship. But now they know we're alive. I stood there in silence, the reality hitting like cold steel. We weren't fighting the Concord anymore. We were fighting time. And something far older had just noticed that Earth was breathing again. The ship finally moved. Not much, just a tilt, a slight angling toward Leviathan, but enough to send every system on board screaming red. No propulsion, no visible thrusters, just motion like space itself shifted to let it glide. It wasn't flying, it was choosing. Distance closing, I said, watching the HUD bleed with distortion. Slow but steady. Dren was already at weapons control. Commander, give the word and I'll erase this thing from history. But Rylance didn't speak. He just stared at it. What are we doing? I snapped. You said they were a myth. Now you're saying they're real and we just sit here? They're in our system, over a capital planet, and you want to wait? Rylance turned to me with that calm that made you feel colder than the vacuum outside. They've already been here. That stopped me. What? They left traces, messages, warnings, buried in old Earth tech, encoded in structures we couldn't even understand back then. Not until Leviathan came online. This ship isn't their first appearance. Dren snarled. And nobody thought to mention this before now? Rylance finally snapped. Because it wasn't supposed to matter. His voice cracked through the silence. We thought they were gone, that they'd passed over Earth like a forgotten stone. But Leviathan's launch, the return signal, something we did woke them up. My heart dropped. It wasn't the Concord that should have feared Earth's silence. It was these things, these architects. Whatever we'd become, it was loud enough to get their attention. And now they were listening. The black ship pulsed suddenly, one wave of violet light, quiet and clean. And something changed. Our systems stilled, completely, not just jammed, quiet, no noise, no processing. As if everything just stopped thinking. I looked around. No one was speaking. Their lips moved, their bodies shifted, but there was no sound, no hum of the reactor, no buzz of monitors. Silence. Pure, crushing silence. Then the lights flickered, and everything rushed back. Comms exploded. Emergency signals screamed. The ship reeked of ozone and stress. And someone was gone. One of the bridge crew. Just gone. Where's Harlan? I asked. Blank stares. He'd been right beside me. Ran comms, 3 tours, steel-nerved, dependable. But his console was empty now. Not wrecked, not scorched, just empty. His chair still warm. System logs didn't show a thing. No bio readings, no door activity. Just missing. And I saw it then, On the viewport, a new light on the black ship, a dim blue glow like a soul trapped in glass. "Harlan, I knew it! They're taking us," I said. Rylance gave me a grim nod. "Or testing us." That was the tipping point. I slammed my fist on the table. "We can't just stand here and let them pick us apart one by one. Fire something, anything. Show them we're not prey." But Dren hesitated. "They're not reacting like anything we've seen. What if that's what they want? What if attacking triggers something worse?" That word again. Worse. As if this wasn't already hell wearing silence as armor. But Rylance made his decision. "Arm the singularity cannon. One shot, full charge. Let's see what happens when a ghost gets punched." We all braced. The Leviathan's core began to charge. Dim tremors shook the ship, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat starting to quicken. Outside, the black ship hovered, watching, waiting. The cannon reached full charge. "Target locked," I said. "Fire!" Rylance ordered. The pulse launched. No sound, just a burst of blue, sharp as a dagger of light. It raced across the void, clean and brutal, and struck the black ship square on. For one glorious second we thought it worked. The ship blinked, literally flickered, and a shockwave rolled outward, tearing through space-time like paper. But when the light cleared, it was still there, untouched. And now it moved fast. One moment it was hundreds of kilometers away. The next it was right in front of us. Not aggressive, not firing, just present. So close we could see the details. Not tech, not metal. This thing was built from something else. Shifting panels, endless patterns. Geometry that hurt to look at for too long. Like it wasn't made by hands, but by thought, by intention. And then it spoke. Not in words, in memory. My eyes glazed. I felt my lungs seize. I was back in the ruins of old Seattle, 15, covered in ash, holding my brother's body. But this time, I wasn't alone. They were there, watching through my memory, not to comfort, to study. When I snapped out of it, I was on the floor. Dren was vomiting. 2 reclaimers were unconscious. And Rylance, he was crying. Silent, shaking. The man who never flinched. "What did you see?" I asked him, barely able to keep my own hands from trembling. He looked up at me, voice a whisper. Earth was never supposed to survive. We didn't move. We couldn't. Not because of fear, though God knows there was plenty of that, but because something deeper had taken hold of us. A stillness, like the ship out there had reached inside and switched us off, just long enough to remind us who really owned the stars. Or maybe we never did. Rylance sat in the command chair, not speaking, not barking orders, just haunted. That word again. Haunted by the truth we'd only begun to glimpse. He finally spoke, voice hoarse. "They didn't kill Earth. They quarantined it." I turned toward him slowly. "What are you talking about?" He didn't look at me. He just stared at the black ship and kept going, unraveling the lie piece by piece. "They didn't betray us out of fear of what we were. They sealed Earth away because of what we carried, what we woke up inside us a long time ago. A seed, a code, something ancient." I felt my stomach sink. "Are you saying we're infected?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "We're the weapon." Silence fell again, thicker than before. You ever wonder why Earth advanced so fast? Why we went from sticks and fire to FTL in a handful of generations, while the rest of the galaxy crawled? He asked. Dren leaned against a console, sweat pouring down his face. "You think it wasn't us?" "I think it was a test." Rylance said, "I think someone, or something, gave us a spark just to see what we'd do with it. And when they saw what we were becoming, they shut the door. And then Earth vanished from every map. My mind reeled. Everything we fought for, every reclaimer born in fire and blood, was based on the idea that the galaxy feared us, envied us, wanted us gone. But what if they were trying to protect themselves? A sharp noise cut through the command deck, high-pitched, piercing, metallic. The black ship was opening. Not like a bay door or hatch. No, it peeled. Like the surface itself was unfolding, layers unwinding in impossible directions. Inside, there was no engine, no deck, no structure. Just light, and shapes that didn't stay shapes for long. The crew started to panic. One man pulled his sidearm and shot himself before he could see more. Another clawed his own eyes out. We lost 3 before the emergency shutters sealed the viewport, and even then we could feel it, watching us. "They're not machines," Dren said, breathing hard. "They're not life either. They're beyond that." Rylance whispered. "They build civilizations like we build firewood." "Then why come now?" I asked. "They didn't come because of Leviathan." Rylance replied. "They came because we remembered, because we broke the silence." And maybe that was always the trap. We thought going dark kept us safe. Maybe that was the lock, and our return was the key. The chamber behind us opened suddenly. One of the reclaimers we left guarding the conquered council was dragging someone in. Varric. Still alive? Barely. His face was bloodied, robes torn, but his eyes held the rage of a cornered animal. "You fools!" he spat. "You called them." Rylance stood over him. "You knew!" Varric laughed bitterly, a hollow sound. "You think Concord feared your weapons? Your rage? We feared this. That if Earth ever climbed out of its cage, they'd come back to finish what they started." "Why didn't you warn us?" I demanded. "We tried," he said. "You buried the warnings under ego and vengeance." Rylance grabbed him by the collar. "Tell me what they want." "They don't want anything," Varric said. "They want to clean up. They see species like weeds. When one grows too fast, too wild, they burn it out before it spreads." Suddenly, alarms blared again. Not from the black ship this time, from deep within Leviathan. "Commander," came a voice over the internal communication. "We've got an energy signature forming inside the primary core, not external, internal." "What the hell does that mean?" Dren shouted. I looked at the console. The core wasn't being attacked. It was responding. Somehow, the thing out there wasn't just probing us. It had reached into us, into our tech, into our power source. And it had found something it recognized. A match. "They're activating it," Rylance said. "What?" I asked. "The seed. The code. Whatever they put in us back then, it's not dormant anymore. They're waking it up." I didn't want to ask the next question, but I had to. "Why?" Rylance finally looked me in the eyes. His voice was dead calm. "To see what happens when their experiment reaches full maturity." The core was boiling. Not literally. There was no heat, no rupture, no explosion, but every sensor in Leviathan screamed like it was dying. Energy signatures spiked beyond scale. Dimensional readings collapsed into unreadable strings of gibberish. Even the AI refused to interpret the data. It just repeated the same phrase over and over. Pattern match detected. Origin, unknown. Process, irreversible. We stood on the bridge watching our creation, our triumph, become something else. Something not built by us anymore. The lights in the war room flickered with an unnatural rhythm, like they were sinking to a heartbeat that didn't belong to any living thing. Rylance didn't look surprised. That's what chilled me. "You knew," I said, staring at him. "You knew this wasn't just a ship." He didn't deny it, just nodded once, slowly. "I didn't know it would answer," he said. "I thought it would stay buried." "Well, it didn't," Dren growled, eyes wild. "So what do we do now, Commander?" "Sit here and wait for it to hatch." The black ship outside began to move again. slowly this time, like it was circling, not attacking, not leaving, watching, because Leviathan was no longer just a threat, it was a trigger. "We have to shut down the core," I said, spinning to the main terminal. "We disconnect it, kill the feed, wipe its access. Whatever this thing woke up, we bury it again." Rylance didn't move. "It won't work. We don't know that." "Yes, we do." His voice was so certain, so final, that it made every other sound vanish for a moment. "This isn't power being drained," he said. "It's evolution. That ship out there, it didn't come to kill us. It came to witness." The floor under our feet began to vibrate, low and steady. Not an alarm, a hum, deep, resonant, like the echo of something ancient waking up in the bones of the ship. Then the walls shifted, only slightly, but enough to know that Leviathan itself was changing. One of the reclaimers on the deck turned to me, sweat pouring down his neck. This ain't tech," he muttered. "This feels like religion." Maybe he was right, because what rose out of the center console wasn't a system display. It was a figure, tall, vaguely human, but wrong. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal, but its form flickered like it existed in too many places at once. No face, just a void where a head should be, and 1,000 whispering voices that poured out like wind scraping through bones. "You broke the silence. You chose the path." Everyone froze. I couldn't even breathe. The figure, whatever it was, turned its non-face toward Rylance, not with movement but presence, pressure. "You built the vessel. Now you must become the purpose." "What the hell does that mean?" Dren demanded. Rylance stepped forward. "I think they want to integrate Leviathan into something bigger, into them." "Then say no," I snapped. "We didn't survive 3 centuries of hell to hand over the keys to some cosmic gardener." Rylance looked at me, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't name. He said softly, "You think this was survival?" He gestured toward the reclaimers. The burned armor, the blood, the silence of Earth that had rotted us into weapons. "We didn't survive. We were shaped." The figure extended its hand, if it could be called that, and Leviathan's core answered. A blinding pulse erupted through the ship. I felt it in my chest like something had just carved itself into me. I collapsed to one knee. So did Dren. The reclaimers dropped like stones. Only Rylance remained standing, because he was already becoming whatever they made us to be. "Rylance, don't!" I shouted, choking on the static in my throat. He turned to me one last time, something between apology and peace in his face. "It was never about revenge," he said. "It was about unlocking what they left in us." And then he stepped into the light. His body disintegrated. Not burned, not broken, just absorbed. One moment he existed, the next he was part of the Leviathan, and Leviathan was no longer just a ship. It spoke. Process complete. Human synthesis achieved. Adaptation successful. Outside, the black ship pulled back. Satisfied, mission complete. And then it vanished. No light, no warp, just absence. And Leviathan remained. Still quiet. Different. I stood in the silence, watching the stars through the viewport, knowing deep down that Earth had never really come back to conquer. We came back to evolve. We were never meant to win the galaxy. We were meant to replace it,